All right. Were you guys hearing me on the Zoom? You're talking for like half an hour? Yeah. All right, because YouTube, they just sent me a message saying they cannot hear me. So I just wanted to make sure. It'll be really bad. Like I'm almost done with the chapter and they're like, I didn't hear a word. All right, so Jonathan, what I was saying, you want me to repeat? It's fine. What I was saying is we have encumbrances. Encumbrances are clouds. Cloud means limitation or restriction on the property, right? And liens are financial claims. They're money. Liens are financial claims or money. Okay, so like a mortgage company, if they put a lien against the property, it's a financial claim because you owe money, right? You owe money to the mortgage, right? All right, so let's start because we're going to learn crazy words. Encumbrance, easements, encroachments, crazy words, okay? Let's start with encumbrance. An encumbrance is an interest in right to real property that limits the legal owner's freehold interest. In effect, an encumbrance is another's right to use or take possession of the legal owner's property or to prevent the legal owner from enjoying the full bundle of rights in real estate. So, encumbrance, again, it's a restriction, it's a limit or limitation on the legal owner's freehold interest. All right, we already heard these words before, yesterday, right? What is freehold? Who can tell me? Zoomers, YouTubers, you guys. What is freehold? There's freehold and there's leasehold. What is freehold? Freehold is the owner. What about leasehold? Tenant. Renter. Yep. So the word lease already says it all. Leasehold is tenant or renter. Freehold, you have full rights to the property, right? So tonight I think you're the one that answered, right? All rights? Yep, that's right. So freehold tenant, which is the owner, has all rights to the property. Leasehold tenant is a renter that has not all rights, only some rights to the property, right? So when we're talking about here, limits the legal owner's freehold interest, that means that limits the owner of the property from doing something. That's what it is. It limits or restricts. If you have a mortgage, before we move forward, if you have a mortgage, can he sell the property without paying off the mortgage? No. Okay. If you have unpaid tax bills, can you sell the property without fixing the unpaid tax bill first? No. So there's a limitation. If you have, let's say you have a single family, but it's a shared driveway, does it have the same value? Does it have the same value as if it was a single family with its own driveway? No. There's a limitation because you're sharing something with a neighbor, so the value is not the same. Just like a duplex, if you divide it into two, which sometimes they do it, a duplex is a side-by-side two-family, right? But sometimes because they're side-by-side, it's possible to cut it into two, meaning one owner and another owner. But because they share a wall, and we'll talk about it, they share a wall between one owner and the other, right? There's a limitation on value. Anytime there's an encumbrance, physical, in this case shared driveway or shared wall, every time there's an encumbrance, physical, there's a limitation on value as well. Okay, it does not have the full value until it's resolved. If it cannot be resolved, it will never have the same value as one without limitations. All right, so an encumbrance, again, it's a cloud that limits or restricts the owner's interest. An encumbrance does not include the right of possession. Can the mortgage company take possession of the property if you're paying? If you're paying the bank on time, can they take possession of the property? No. So they don't have the right to possess the property. They don't have the right to use the property. They don't have the right to transfer the property. They only have a claim against the property. They have an encumbrance, a lien against the property. That's a claim, right? So they have an interest that allows them to take possession, but they cannot do it now. Only if you default, right? There you go. So an encumbrance can lead to the owner's loss of ownership of the property. Now, easements and liens are the most common types of encumbrances. An easement, such as utility easement, enables others to use the property regardless of the owner's desires. A lien, such as a tax lien, can be placed on the property's title, thereby restricting the owner's ability to transfer clear title to another property. The two general types of encumbrance are those that affect the property's use and those that affect the legal ownership, value, and transfer. So here you go. Next page. General types of encumbrance. There's the ones that restrict the owner's use, and the ones restrict the ownership. One is the use, the other one's the ownership. Okay? So the types of encumbrance or restrictions, right? Again, encumbrance, restriction, that's what it means. The restriction, it's a cloud. That restrict the use are called easements, encroachments, liens, and deed restrictions. These, if you ever see any of these, they restrict the use only, not ownership. Liens and deed conditions, they restrict the ownership, value, and transfer. Okay? For instance, you guys remember when I said yesterday that I could sell the property to you as long as you're alive? Right? There's a limitation on the transfer. Because when you die, you cannot transfer to your heirs. There's a limitation on your life. As soon as you die, property comes back to me. So there's a limitation on the ownership, value, or transfer. That will be a deed condition. Okay? Liens. You cannot transfer without paying off the liens. Okay, the financial claims. So let's start with easements. Easement equals using someone else's property. But an easement is a right that we have. Okay? An easement is a right that we have to use someone else's property. So every time you see easement, the word easement, it's the right that somebody has to use your property, or a right that you have to use someone else's property. Okay? It's a right. If it's a right, it cannot be taken away. It's not like a permission. So you have the right to live, nobody can take it away from you, right? But if you have a driver's license, you have permission to drive New Jersey roads, for instance. If you have New Jersey's driver's license, the permission. Can your driver's license be taken away from you? Absolutely. Now, your life can be taken away from you, but that's illegal. They cannot kill you. While taking a driver's license is a legal process. Do you guys understand the difference? All right? So easement is a right that I have on somebody else's property, like a shared driveway. Okay? Hold on, let the Route 21 hold. All right, so an easement, if you have a shared driveway or if you have a shared wall, right? Can we change anything about this? Can we change the shared driveway and say, no, it's just mine? Can we? Can you tell your neighbor you're no longer able to use your half? Your half is now mine. Can you do that? No. Oh, that's different. But that's different. Until I buy and I cut off from your section because you allowed me to keep it, until then, I cannot tell you not to use my half of the driveway, and you cannot tell me not to use your half of the driveway. I have the right to use it because it's a shared driveway. For me to get to the back of the house, which I'm entitled to, I use your half. For you to get to the back of the house, which you're entitled to, use my half. And I cannot stop you. That's why it's called a shared driveway. We have to. So now you're telling me that a shared wall, I can also just, stop sharing it? How? Buy the other property on the other side. Yes. So that's how we terminate an easement. How do we terminate the easement? Just buy the other side. See, there's two types of easements. There's easement of pertinent and easement in gross. Appurtenant means attached. In gross, to make it simple, I'm going to call it detached. I've been working on different ways to explain this. This is probably the easiest one now. So easement of pertinent is when you have two properties are attached to each other, like a shared driveway, shared wall. They're attached. Okay? An easement in gross is the right that I have on a property that's detached from mine. So I can use someone else's property, like a utility company, right? They have the rights to go to your property to install water and sewer mains, right? Or utility poles. They have the simple right to use your property. Yet, their property is not attached to yours. You guys understand? So their land is not attached to yours, and they have the right to do so. Want some coffee? Tea? You have tea in the back. All right. I catch anybody yawning, I'm ending the session. Huh? Oh, you have to pay more for that. You think what do you pay for classes enough?
You get free coffee?
No, you don't get free coffee.
Just me, I can't. You're not.
Well, I'm afraid of her. She was killing her husband already and like kicking me out of the co-op before. I don't know. Well, I don't want to mess with her. Alex, yeah, check in real quick. All right, so you can go if you want real quick.
Yeah.
Go through, like when you went to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Go through the other door and ask Pedro to help you out. The kitchen's right there. All right, go ahead. Run. Give it a try. Go. I give you guys like a bunch of minutes to go to.
Let's get another break then.
We got a 2-hour break. That's what it is. Yeah, the purchase went through. I saw it. All right, if there's anybody watching on YouTube, let me know if it's been working. I saw here that it went down for a second. I'm not sure if it's still working or not. Let me know. All right, we're good? So, easements. All right, Michael, thank you. So an easement is an interest in real property that gives the holder the right to use portions of the legal owner's property as defined by law. All right? The receiver of the easement is the benefited party. The giver of the easement is the burden party, because I have to allow you, I cannot stop you, like the shared driveway, right? Now, the essential characteristics of easements include the following. An easement must involve the owner of the land over which the easement runs and another non-owning party. Non-owning party, and that was the key. If you guys listened to what Royan was saying and what Simi was saying about buying the other side, if you buy the other side, then we no longer have an easement, because an easement is a right that I have on somebody else's property. So imagine I have two properties next to each other, and I go like, hey, Bruno, do you allow yourself to go over to the next property? Right? Do I allow myself to go over to the next property? That's crazy. If I own both, there's no easement. But if there's two parties that own attached property, then there might be an easement. Okay, so you cannot have an easement over your own property. The easement pertains to a specific physical area within the property boundaries, and an easement may be affirmative or allowing the use, or negative prohibiting the use, such as airspace easement that prohibits one property owner from obstructing another's ocean view. You guys remember the air rights? Okay. Now there's two basic types of easement. We have the easement of pertinent and in gross. The easement of pertinent gives the right, a property owner, the right of usage of an adjoining property owned by another party. So when we see easement of pertinent, it's an adjoining property. It's an attached property. Easement of pertinent is an attached property. Okay? The property enjoying the usage right is called a dominant tenement or dominant estate, and the property containing the physical easement itself is called the servient tenement. So there's dominant and servient. Dominant, I want you to think guest. Servient, I want you to think host. Okay? So it's very simple. Dominant is the guest, servient is the host. So if I am using your property for some reason, you are the host, right? So you are serving me your property and I have the right to use your property. I'm the dominant, I'm the guest, it's not my property. The host owns the property, right? The guest enjoys the property. So if you guys invite me over to your house for a party or something like that, right? I'm the guest. You're the host, right? You're the one opening the door, allowing me to go through, but because you invited me, I have the right to be there. You understand? So remember that. Whoever uses the property is dominant. Whoever allows the use is servient. So guest and the host. So here you go. You have some figures here. Easement of Pertinent. These are properties are attached. And if you look right here, what do we have? Lot number 1 is the dominant. Lot number 2 is the servient. Why? Because for lot number 1 to get to the public road, as we see right here at the bottom, lot number 1 has to go through, you got it? Through the driveway of lot number 2. You got it? To get to the public road. So they're using somebody else's property to get to the public road. So dominant is lot 1, lot number 2 is servient. And look at lot number 3. Same way. They have to go through this property to get to the public road. So lot number 3 also goes through lot number 2. So again, dominant, servient. Simple as that. Who dominates? Whoever uses. Okay? Who serves? Well, the host of that benefit. Okay? Any questions? No questions? All right. We got something else here, which is easement by necessity. So if you guys look at C, easement by necessity, it refers to lot number 1. Now, lot number 1 is landlocked. What does that mean, landlocked? It means that there's no way to get to the public road. So it is essential, guys, it's essential that we can get to public road so we can go to supermarket, for instance, emergency services, for instance, right? So in this community here, for you to get to the public road, you have to go through lot number 2. So the dominant is dominant, but they have an easement or a right to use by necessity. It's a need that they have, and you cannot take it away. Can lot number 2 say, get a helicopter, go over? No. All right? So that's necessity. All right. So easement by necessity when you are landlocked. Okay? Easement by necessity is when you are landlocked. All right, it's only, how much does Starbucks cost? Too much, right? So this is too much plus tax, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. It is way better. Guys, make sure you have your cameras on, or the cameras are pointed at you, please. Stop running away from the camera. Some people are just afraid, I don't know. The spotlight. All right, what do we have next? We have party wall easements. So when it comes to party wall easements, what I told you guys, here's the wall, right? That separates both parties. We share the wall. Now, here's a question. We have a shared wall. And easement means right on somebody else's property or to somebody else's property, to use somebody else's property. What right do I have on the other side of the wall? What right do they have on my side of the wall? Why would it be called an easement? Because easement, again, means right to use, right? Right to use, right? That's what easement is. So party wall, right to use. Party wall is what separates the parties. So this side from the other side. Can anybody tell me why it's called an easement or right to use? Or what kind of rights do I have on the other side, or what kind of right they have on my side? Anyone? But I'm not landlocked, there's doors. Yet, it's still the right to use. In the neighbor's kitchen? We're talking about party wall, the wall that separates the houses. So like, let's say houses in a row or condos, right? This wall from here in is mine. From the other side on, it's theirs. Why does the next door neighbor have a right to my side of the wall and I have a right to their side of the wall? Anyone? Come on, Zoomers, participate. I cannot cut this wall in half? Like I cannot take my half, like slice it? Why not?
Because it's constructed that way, or if
Okay.
we have to.
Okay.
So, I mean, like.
Okay. Hold on to that thought. What were you saying?
One more.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but the wall is like this thick. The wall is this thick, right? This side, that side.
But the wall only side.
Why? If I cut a portion, there you go. Because it's gonna fall. If there's construction or if you don't maintain, it could fall. That's the key, right? Because the properties are attached to one another, like I have here from Brian. Yes. So that means, guys, that the party wall easement means that the neighbor cannot destroy their side. They cannot cut the wall. They cannot do construction that will affect my side without letting me know. You know why? Because if they damage that side, this side will collapse. Okay? The same way, they have a right on my side. What right do they have? That I have to maintain the wall for their use. You guys understand? So it's the support. The party wall easement means that one half supports the other half, and vice versa. Right? So you're both correct. Perfect. So here we go. They cannot do anything that jeopardizes the wall, and the agreement or the party wall agreement also says responsibilities and obligations for maintenance and repair of the wall. So again, we find this in townhouses, we find this in apartment buildings, like condos, right, or co-ops. You cannot do anything that damages your neighbor's safety. In this case, the wall. Okay. Very good. All right, next we got easement in gross. Okay, we don't have to have properties attached. So we're gonna put, again, detached, and then simple, right to use. Someone else's property, obviously. Can you read? Is it okay? I was doing better with the killer up there. Simple right to use. It's detached. We don't have to have two properties attached to each other to be detached. So, right here, an easement in gross is a personal right that one grants to another to use the grantor's real property. The right does not attach to the grantor's estate. It involves only one property and consequently does not benefit any property owner by easement, the easement owner. There are no dominant or serving estates in an easement in gross, and an easement in gross may be personal or commercial. So here's an example of it. Utility companies. They have a commercial easement. Okay? Utility companies have commercial easement. Let me zoom in. They have a commercial easement. These utility companies, right here, they're on the property line. So they have an easement, right here. That's their easement on Lot A's property. You got it? That's their easement on Lot A's property. They have the right to come to your property and install and maintain the poles. Okay, that's on your property. It's commercial easement or right to use. As far as personal easement, there's a lake. If you guys see in the figure, there's a lake all the way up top, right? Everybody in this community is entitled to go to the lake. So you have right here, Lot B does not have the attached property because there's a public road in between. And they have the right to use that path of Lot A to the lake. You guys got it? So Lot B is not attached to Lot A. There's a road between them. Yet, Lot B, because they belong to a community that has a lake, as an example, Lot B is entitled to use. That's an easement in gross. Now, if there's another property here, let's say here it was C, right? But this area right here belongs to A, then this would be, C would have an easement of pertinent because they're attached, right? B has an easement in gross. C would have a pertinent because they're attached. That's the distinction. In gross, which is what we're talking about now, in gross is detached, simple right to use someone else's property. A pertinent is attached, right to use someone else's property. Questions? You got the question face. Go ahead. It's by an agreement. So, for instance, let's say this is right here. This is part of lake whatever community, right? So we all agreed that when we purchased the property, when we developed these properties, right, we agreed that the lake was shared with everybody in the community, right? For the community, there's a bunch of properties here, and there's roads in between. The lake is away from certain properties, separated by roads, but is attached to property A. The lake belongs, technically, to property A because it's attached to it. So for everybody in the community to get to the lake, they have to go through property A. So they're detached, right? So B is right here. D could have been all the way here. E could have been all the way here. They're not directly attached to Lot A, but they're part of the community. And that's the agreement that was created. Make sense? For instance, PSC&G. Yep. The electrical company, they put the utility poles that connects all these properties together, or puts the light poles for the roads for you to see, right? They install it on your property, right? You guys good at home? Give me a thumbs up if you're good. Great. You guys good? See me? Yeah. Good. Ryan, you're good? All right. All right, so how do we create an easement? At the end of page 59. So easements may be created by voluntary action. That means, hey, I know you need this. Would you like to use, right? Voluntary action. It could be by necessity, where I'm forced, if I'm landlocked. We already covered that. It could be by prescriptive operation of law. We'll talk about that later. It could be by government power of eminent domain. That means the government takes it away from you, and I'll explain that later as well. Voluntary, expressly agreed. Necessity, you're landlocked. Now let's look at this one that I have highlighted. Easement by prescription. Easement by prescription means adverse possession, or also known as squatters rights. So, easement by prescription, also known as adverse possession or squatters rights. I call this legally stealing somebody else's property. And I say legally because the laws allow us to do so. Okay? I also call this abandonment claim. For instance, if you go to Lost and Found, and nobody claims something after a certain period of time, what do? Take it, right? So that's what adverse possession, squatters' rights, or easement by prescription is. If somebody abandons their house, right, and you see it's vacant, it's abandoned, you go there and you start maintaining it, you take over, you start maintaining the property, and nobody shows up, well, apparently it was lost, abandoned, because clearly needs maintenance. I found it, I'm claiming it. So it's legal claim of somebody else's property. How can we do that? So every state has different laws when it comes to this, and every country has different laws. In Portugal, for instance, my country, it's like 25 years of usage to be able to claim it. Okay, 25 years of usage to be able to claim it. So an easement by prescription. If someone uses another's property as an easement without permission for a statutory period of time, depending on the state, statutory period of time, and under certain conditions, a court order may give the users an easement right by prescription, regardless of owner's desires. Look, if I drop $100 bill right now, right? Maybe you did not see who it was. Maybe you did. If you did, great. Come to me and say, Bruno, you just dropped $100, right? Say yes, please. Okay. I want to know I'm working with the right kind of people here. Everybody's silent. So you're going to come to me and say it. But if you did not see it, you're just walking by and it happens to be $100 on the floor, right? What are you going to do? Pick it up, and what are you going to do next? You're going to wave it around and say, hey, did anybody? Put it in your property and walk away. See how it is? How about put it in your pocket, wait a little bit, see if anybody comes back to claim it. Like, oh man, I lost my $100. Where is it? And I go back to where I could have lost it, right? And now there you are, Natasha, with a $100 bill in your pocket, ready to run away. Like, hey, did you see $100 anywhere? And Natasha's gonna be like, nope. Is that you? Maybe. All right. He first says no, and then like, maybe. What's $100? I don't even know what that is. Right? That would be you. So, but let's say nobody shows up to claim it. After a while, what are you going to assume? They abandon it. Therefore, mine. So with the properties is exactly the same. You have the legal rights to take over properties, right? As long as you maintain them, right? That's one of the things that's required. You use the property, you maintain the property, and in certain states, you have to pay taxes as well. Not all, right? So for prescriptive easements to be granted, the following circumstances must be true. It's an adverse, that's why adverse possession, and hostile use. Meaning, You're doing this without permission or license. The owner never told you, yeah, go ahead, steal my property. Owner never told you, go ahead, use my property. So therefore, you're not a tenant. You guys got it? Okay. It has to be open and notorious. So you cannot hide in the basement. The owner knows or is presumed to know, keyword presumed to know, that you're doing it, that you're using it. So you're not hiding. It's open, visible, and notorious. Everybody knows what you're doing. Okay? And you must have had continuous use for the prescriptive period. So uninterrupted continuous use for the prescriptive period. So if it's 6 years, like in Florida, 6 years later of actively using the property without the owner's permission, now you can go in front of a judge and say, Your Honor, I've been using the property. The owner has not shown up yet. Give me the rights to it. It's not the title. It's not ownership yet. The first thing they grant you is the right to keep using it. So now, if the owner does show up, they cannot kick you out because you have the right to use it. Okay? The next step after you gained the right to use, now it is transferring the title to your name. So yes, you can legally become the owner of the property, even though you did not purchase it. All right. This only happens with vacant, abandoned homes. Keyword, abandoned. Just like the $100, if I don't come back, I abandon it. Just like the lost and found, nobody comes back, abandoned. All right? Yes?
I'll go right.
You're in Newark, you got shot. I don't know what you're asking.
Over there, it was a vacant house for a long time. Built it.
Right there, yeah, I know.
Oh, that one.
I know where it is.
So if I want
The land is contaminated, that's why. But go ahead, go and occupy it the way it is. Contaminate it, then you're gonna be glowing green and stuff, right?
Or what if I go another one, it's all messed up, abandoned, but it don't say for sale, it don't say nothing. I go, I fix it up, have it.
She's like, I can have it. So technically, yes, but there's a legal process. You cannot just go and move into somebody's house. That would be called breaking and entry. So every state has rules on how to do this. You have to put a notice and notify also City Hall. We have to put a notice on the door, visible to everyone, whoever wants to claim it, a notice that you have the intentions of claiming this property through adverse possession, starting today. If nobody complains after 90 days, you can remove that notice. That's visible, open, and notorious. City Hall is aware of it. It's not breaking and entering until the person claims it. And they have up to 30 years, well, depending on the type of property, they have up to 30 years in Jersey to say, hey, what are you doing here? But thank you for maintaining my property. So don't go for this one. Go for one in Florida. It's 6 years. Just saying. Or when we get to taxation, I'm going to show you how here in New Jersey you can go from 20 years to 2 years. Way better, right? Okay. When we get to a different chapter, state specific, I'll show you how to go from the whole prescriptive period down to 2 years. All right, anyway. This class is out on how to help other people buy their houses, not on how to steal people's houses, okay? So stop asking these questions. Want to kill the husband, want to steal a house. Great class. At home, they're quiet. They're like, I'm not even going to say anything. They're taking notes. Forget being a realtor. Anyway. All right, the next one is eminent domain. Have you ever heard of this? Not the rapper. No, eminent? Good to pay attention. Eminent domain. So eminent domain, actually that'll be a great rapper's name. Think about it. My domain, eminent domain. Look at that. No, I don't want it either. Because eminent domain is when the government takes it away from you. Okay? Eminent domain is when the government takes it away from you. So they do that through the process of condemnation of private land. Okay? Condemnation of private land. So the government can come to you and say, hey, I need your property, your property, your property, your property, because we're going to build a brand new school here. Okay? As long as it's for the greater good, something that's going to benefit the community, the government has the right to come and take the property from you. But they have to pay you. It's not just how much you bought? 500,000? Yeah, sorry, you lost 500,000. No, it's not like that. They have to give you fair or just compensation. So they'll give you money for it. We'll talk about it better later. All right. Next, we have encroachments. Next page, we have encroachments. Okay, encroachment is an illegal extension over somebody else's property. Illegal extension over somebody else's property. So for instance, our properties are divided by a fence. And I removed the fence. I removed the fence because I want a brand new fence. And now I move the fence 1 foot over into your property. This means I'm encroaching. Okay, I'm encroaching onto your property. I'm leaning or passing your property line. That's encroachment. Okay? Now, encroachment. Unauthorized physical intrusion. So illegal extension over somebody else's property. Examples of encroachment are a tree limb extending into the neighbor's property and violating his or her airspace. A driveway extending beyond the lot line onto the neighbor's land, or a fence built beyond the property line. The thing about encroachments is that if nobody complains about it, the use is open, visible, and notorious, adverse and hostile to the owner's desire. What could happen a few years later? I can take over the lands that I encroached upon. Yes, way.
I got a friend that's going through that situation.
Yep.
Tell me that. How long?
So it depends on the state. It's from state to state.
That person,
Mhm.
they can actually say that's their land.
Yep. Not their land, their portion. So let's look at this. I got property A, I got property B. There's a fence between, right? The dash is the fence, right? Now, let's say that I want to, instead of having that metal mesh fence, those really ugly ones that you can see through, I want to have those nice, tall, white PVC fences, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here, take all these out. You remember where the line was? Okay. You sure you remember where the line was? You sure it wasn't there? Are you positive? It was directly in the middle? So here's the thing. If A does not say anything for the next 20 or 30 years, I claimed that piece of land to be mine now. That's what it is. So A, the other owner, has to complain of my usage of their property. If not, it's called adverse possession. City. I just gained that piece of land right there. Yep. So usually I give the example of the sweet old lady that's right next door planting her beautiful garden. And then they're like, oh, neighbor, would you like some flowers on yours too? And they start planting on their garden as well, right? So now you have a nice arrangement. Even makes your name with flowers, right? That's your property. This is my property.
It doesn't matter what you're using. Flowers.
Doesn't matter what it is.
As long as you're on that.
As long as I'm on your turf, that's what it is. I'm on your property.
You can own it.
Mm.
Wow.
Let me explain something. It's not you can own it. You can claim the right to use it. So one thing is you allowing me, right? Another thing is me having the right to, and you have nothing that you can say about it. That's the first step. It's to claim the right to use. That's easement by prescription. Step number 2 is telling the court, Your Honor, I've been using it for 20 years. I've gained the right to use. Now please cut it out of their property and give it to me. So now this is my whole property because I gained that little piece. So I cut onto you. Now a new survey shows that this is my property. Now I claim legal title to that piece of land. Okay? So the first step is claiming a permanent right to use, adverse possession. Okay? Or easement by prescription. The second step is if I have a permanent right to use, might as well make it mine. So we file a lawsuit called a suit for quiet title. Now it's transferring the title of that little piece right there, transferring the title of that to me. That's step number 2. Oh, I gained property, yes. But also the value of my property went up. And yours went down because you had less property. In fact, as a matter of fact, I'll sell the property before the taxes go up. That's right. That's how it happens. How do you think the United States came to be? They slowly encroached onto other people's properties. Slowly. We went from 13 colonies. Well, isn't it? How was it different? Wasn't it hostile and adverse? Without permission? Open, visible, and notorious? Oh, yeah, that's the only difference. Well, even if they were to wait a little time, the people that owned the land were no longer alive to say, yeah, no, sure, go ahead, no. Unfortunately, that's what happens when you colonize or conquer. Oh, so you think that's a benefit? I took your land, but good news, you don't have to pay taxes. Also, here's casinos, and you will never tax you on the money you make on the casino. Yeah, you're right. That's a nice way to look at it. It's better than nothing. Okay. What? Of course not. It's their land. Anyway. Different story. Different story. All right. License. Permission or privilege. Permission or privilege. Privilege to what? To use someone else's property. If I allow you to park on my driveway, that's a permission. I allowed permission. I'm not renting, permission only. There's a license, right? The thing about licenses is that they can be revoked or withdrawn. So I can tell you, hey, you can park on my driveway, and then 5 minutes later, what can I do? Revoke it at any time. License is revocable at any time. So that's what you got to remember. So a license is not an easement because an easement is a right. And you cannot revoke it. Okay? A license is permission and it could be revoked or withdrawn at any time. So again, unlike easement, a license is revocable. So unlike easement, a license is not an easement. Okay? All right, deed restrictions. You guys already know all this, so it's easy for me to go right through. Deed restrictions are when I said the property is yours as long as you use it for hospital purposes, as long as you're alive, right? That's a deed restriction that survives the ownership. So when you sell to somebody else, you transfer to somebody else, what happens? That somebody else has the same deed restriction. So deed restrictions, these are private restrictions. So I want you to write private restrictions. They're not government, they're private restrictions. Okay. On the next page, I just explained, a private party who wants to control the quality and standards of a property can establish the deed restriction. Deed restrictions take precedence over zoning ordinances if they are more restrictive. Now, deed restrictions typically apply to land use, the size and types of structures that may be placed on the property and minimum cost of structures, engineering, architectural and aesthetic standards such as setbacks and specific sets of standards of construction. So if you live in a private gated community, for instance, like we talked about condos, right? And there are certain things you can and certain things you cannot do with the property. The master deed for that community establishes all those restrictions. We find them in the bylaws of the homeowners association. So that's the developer set a restriction for all the homeowners of what they can do with the land, what is the type of structure that can be built or changed or altered or not, right? And so on. Simple. All right, this you guys already know, right? What is a lien? Oh, I was about to say. I feel like that Charlie Brown thing. Wah, 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 wah. I'm just here, wah, 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 and nobody's getting back at me. Financial claim. Money. Financial claim. And there's different lien types. There's different priority to liens. Okay. So let's talk about liens real quick. In the state exam, if you look for mortgage, if they're asking about mortgage as an example of, give you 4 answers, guarantee you it's an example of a lien. In fact, it might even say it's an example of a voluntary lien, which we're going to talk about in a second. Okay? You getting the answers there? Is that what you're getting, the answers on your phone? No? Terrible. All right. So, we're ready to talk about liens. Talk about liens. Next page. Liens have the following legal features. If you have any questions, just stop me and I'll explain. So, a lien does not convey ownership. You guys already know this. A lien does not give you title to the property. Does not convey ownership to the property. Because a lien is simply a claim. It's not legal title to the property. But there's an exception. Right? The exception is a mortgage lien if you're in a title theory state. I'll explain that when we get to financing. There's lien theory states and there's title theory states. In some states, the title is just like the car title. It's transferred to a third party before it comes to you. Once you finish paying off the debt, just like a car, then it comes to you. So in some states, that's how it operates. All right? Now the lien attaches to the property. Okay? Let's write this in front of it. Not to property owner. The lien attaches to the property, not to the property owner. The lien attaches to the property, not to the property owner. That's the second bullet point. It attaches to the property, not to the property owner. That means you can sell the property, but the lien still has to be paid. That's why usually we don't close until the liens are paid off. Okay? So the lien attaches to the property. If the new owner does not pay, or if everybody stops paying, the new owner is not financially obligated to do so, but the new owner still loses the property because the lien is against the property. Now, a property may be subjected to multiple liens because I can have a first mortgage, second mortgage, third, so on. Construction liens, right, as well. Tax liens, and so on. A lien terminates on the payment of debt, so once you finish paying it off, they have to discharge the mortgage. That means they can no longer hold a claim against your property because the balance is now zero, right? Imagine this. You finish paying off your mortgage and a year later, like balance is zero. A year later, you go to, I don't know, you want either to sell or you want to refinance, you want to cash out, the money on your property. And when you go do that, they pull a title search. And they pull a title search, well, but you still owe $300,000 to Bank of America. And you're like, no, I paid it off. I paid it off over a year ago. So the lender has to remove the lien once you finish paying it off. The lender has to say, I no longer have any claim on this property. Okay? Any questions on this? Who dies? You and people die. What's wrong with you? Right? What if the guy dies? And it's only the guys. Have you noticed that, Ryan? It's only the guys. I would move up here. I'm telling you. People at home, they're like, so glad I'm so far away. Go ahead. What if the guy dies? Go ahead. Why does the owner have to be a guy? You can be like, oh, what if she dies? What if the woman dies? What if the gal dies? The guy. Go ahead, Lady Young. These Brazilians, I tell you. Go ahead. Sorry? Go ahead. Sorry. Not the owner, the lien holder, so the bank.
The bank.
The bank is the one that has to take the claim out. So if I lend money to you, I put a claim against the property, that's called a lien. You owe me money, I put a lien against the property. It's the mortgage, the lien, right? Once you finish paying me off, right, once the balance is zero, I have to go to county records and let them know, hey, Lady Anna does not owe me any money anymore, right? Please release the claim before she kills me. So I have to go there and release the claim.
But if you die before, that's my.
I'm the bank. How am I going to die? The bank doesn't die.
Doesn't die.
But okay, I understand. If I lend to you money directly, like I'm a person and I lend you money directly, private lender, yes. There's no claim. Who are you going to pay? But who are you going to pay? So if there's family, then the estate will come up. Yes, you still have the obligation. See, now we're going somewhere, right? If I have no heirs, if I have no estate, then who you pay? Exactly. Anything that I own or assets that I have, the state takes over. Okay? But again, if it's a private lending and there's, like, that's an obligation to the lender, it's not the other way around. If I owe money to somebody, then that money I have to pay when I die. So either I pay or my assets are sold in order to satisfy the debts before it goes to my heirs. This is the reverse. I die, but you owe me money, right? Don't worry, I'll haunt you. It's okay. I'll haunt you. That's it. All right. Next, we have liens. Liens can be, we've been talking about liens. Liens may be voluntary or involuntary. What's the difference between voluntary and involuntary? The difference. Correct. Voluntary, you want to. Involuntary, being forced to. That's the biggest difference. So can anybody give me an example of voluntary liens? Mortgage. Why? Because you ask for it. What about involuntary liens? No. Involuntary liens. Anybody? IRS lien? Yep, that's an involuntary lien. Perfect. You had one? You just needed the right people, man. I got somebody that works for the IRS. That's it. Foreclosure. So foreclosure or default, that's an action that's taken against you. So it's your, you'll get a default judgment. So yes, the judgment itself will be a involuntary lien. It could be. Tax liens. Michael, thank you on YouTube. Tax liens. How about your property taxes? Did anybody ever ask for property taxes? You guys going to IRS, might as well put child support too, right? But yes, these are all involuntary liens, right? Involuntary, perfect. the next thing we have is general and specific liens. Right? I'm skimming right through because this is common sense. Voluntary and involuntary was easy. Now general and specific is also easy because specific means that the lien is against one property only. General means that the lien is against all property that you have. Right? So a general lien is one that's placed against any and all real and personal property. So general liens, right? So Alex wrote IRS, right? I mentioned child support, right? Those are general liens. Hospital bills, those are general liens. They go against all your property. They go against your house. They go against your car. They go against your income. They go against your taxes. They might even stop, not the hospital bills, but the IRS and the child support. They might even stop you from traveling. They'll go after your driver's license. They go after your passport. These are general liens applied to everything you have. Whereas specific lien, like the mortgage, if you stop paying the mortgage, what can they take away? Only the house. So that's a specific lien. That's the difference. So specific lien attaches to a single item of real or personal property. Like a car. If you buy a car, you have a specific lien against the car. If you don't pay, what can they take? The car. That's it. Very good. Then we have superior and inferior liens. Superior and inferior liens. I think this is easy to understand. Superior liens, they have priority. They're first. They're top. Right? Inferior liens, they're secondary. They're below. So, all the way at the bottom of that page, this is page, what page are we at? 64. So at the bottom of that page, we have establishment of priority. Now this is very, very important right here. How do we establish priority? First, figuring out if it's a superior or a junior lien. And after that is based on when it was recorded. So these are the two ways to establish priority. First thing is whether it's a superior or a junior lien. And second, the date that it was recorded, date of recordation of the lien. Okay? Good so far? Bless you. All right. So let's look at the table. What are superior liens? So guys, superior liens, no matter what, these liens or any of these right here, these four, no matter when it was recorded or not, these are always first. So always first. Okay? Superior liens are always first. And look what we have as superior liens. The most common, real estate tax. So if there's an unpaid bill, when you go through foreclosure and somebody wins the auction, guess what? They have to pay the taxes first before anything else. Okay? Special assessments. This is also a type of tax. And then we have estate and inheritance tax. The reason why I'm highlighting estate and inheritance is if you guys notice, it says federal estate. It doesn't say federal taxes. It says federal estate. So they're both the same. They're both based on inheritance. When somebody dies, there's federal taxes and state taxes when that person dies. You have to pay for it. So if there's a property that goes through foreclosure and there's pending estate taxes to be paid, whether federal or state, those are superior liens. For state exam, this is most likely the one that's going to be in the question. Real estate taxes, they're always first. Okay?
Why are real estate?
Because local. The property is local and belongs to the state, but controlled by the municipality. So your taxes, local taxes, are always first. Then everything else. Okay? So everything else, junior liens, is based on priority of recording. Okay? So first in time, first in line. First in time, first in line. What does that mean? If any of these are right here are against the property, we need to figure out who recorded first. Whoever recorded first gets paid first. If there's enough money for the second, we pay the second. If there's enough money for the third, we pay the third. If there's no more money and there's more stuff recorded, nobody gets anything. You got it? So let me ask you, in the event of foreclosure, guys, Zoomers, YouTubers, and locals, in the event of foreclosure, who gets paid first? Real estate what? Taxes. In the event of foreclosure, who gets paid first? Take a note, because this is very, very important. It's guaranteed state exam question, school or state exam question. In the event of foreclosure, who gets paid first? They're going to give you 4 options. They're going to put a construction lien, junior lien, like a mortgage, real estate taxes, and then something else. Who gets paid first? Always real estate taxes. They're the superior liens. Okay? Always real estate taxes. Who gets paid second? It depends on when it was recorded. First in time, first in line. It could be the mortgage. It could be the IRS, see, federal income taxes. It could be the state corporate taxes. It could be state intangible tax liens. It could be judgment liens like a hospital bill. Mortgage liens, vendors liens, mechanics liens, whatever. These are based on when they were recorded. So who gets paid first? Real estate tax. Who gets paid second? Recording date. Simple. All right? You remember that, and you already passed 2 questions in the state exam. Sebastian is like, woohoo! All right, 108 to go. Don't worry. You're good. All right, so that's what I explained right here. Now, mechanics lien is the only one with an exception. Mechanics lien is the only one that has an exception. This is the only lien, mechanics lien is the only lien that's retroactive. Meaning, it's not based on when it was recorded, it's based on when the work commenced or ended. Think about it. A mechanics lien or construction lien. I do work on your house and you don't pay me. What do I have to do for you to pay me? Say louder. Sue. So I have to go to court, right? I go to court, I file a lawsuit. Is the lawsuit going to be over tomorrow? No. How long does it take? It could take years, right? So let's say 3 years. In 3 years of me starting the lawsuit because you don't pay me, right? In 3 years of start, so we're going to go by logic when you see this question. In 3 years, is it possible that because I improved your property, I did work on your property, is it possible that within 3 years you get a refinance for a higher value? The property is now worth more. Is it possible that you try to sell a house? Yeah, of course. This is why, from beginning of lawsuit until judgment, the mechanics lien or construction lien is the only lien that's retroactive to the date the work began, not when the lawsuit ended, because the lawsuit could take years. And we can only file a lien with a lawsuit, right? So this is the only one that's retroactive to when the work began or when material was first delivered. So that's what you have to think. Logic. We're going to look at priority. Number 1, taxes. Number 2, let's say first mortgage. But then construction was done right after. So let me put some dates here to make it simple for you. So we bought the house, 1999, purchase. Okay? In 1999, with the purchase, we got a mortgage. Because there's no other mortgage on the property, this is called the first mortgage. Good so far? Okay. In 2002, I did work to the property. Didn't pay. The work that was done to my property increased the value of the property so much that in 2003, I got another mortgage. It's called a second mortgage. In the same year, the person that did the construction, right? So the construction company files lawsuit because they're waiting for the monies, right? So they file a lawsuit. 2006, we get a judgment. And 2007, this person stopped paying the mortgage, so they went through foreclosure. Who gets paid first? Real estate taxes. It's not listed here. It's not listed here because these taxes are not recorded. But yes, real estate taxes first. Perfect. Who gets paid second? Which is? The first mortgage. So they get paid second. Who gets paid third? Correct. The judgment is retroactive to this date. So who gets paid third? Construction. Who gets paid fourth? The second mortgage, if there's enough money. So construction is the only one that's retroactive because it's not fair that I did work for you. You went and got a second mortgage. Now you stop paying everything and none of us get paid. I did the work. So if there's enough money, I come before that second mortgage that you got. Okay? Construction is the only one that's retroactive to when the work began or material was first delivered. Questions? Good? All right. All right, we already talked about superior liens, real estate taxes. So you guys have this highlighted already in your book, so I'm going to go right through. Next page, we're on page 67. A judgment lien is easy. It's a decision by the judge. And after you have a money decision by the judge, you put a lien against the house. A mortgage and trust deed lien is simple, right? You ask for money to purchase the house or money against the house, so they put a mortgage against it, and so on. Mechanics lien, we just covered it. It's construction liens. And on page 68, we have foreclosure. Foreclosure. All right. We're almost done with the chapter. Now there's other chapters where we might go more in detail. I'm letting you know right now. Some things I skip because we either already talked about it or we're going to go through in detail in a different chapter. All right. So foreclosure. Foreclosure, we have mortgage lien foreclosure, we have judicial foreclosure, non-judicial foreclosure, strict foreclosure, and deed in lieu of foreclosure. So all liens can be enforced by the sale or transfer of the title of secured property, whether by court action, operation of law, or through powers granted in the original loan agreement. Now, the enforcement proceedings are referred to as foreclosure. So if I need to take you to court because you're not paying, what am I going to do? I'm going to foreclose, right? So state laws govern the foreclosure process. So from state to state it's different. And broadly, a statutory or court order sale enforces a general lien, including a judgment lien. A lawsuit or loan provision authorizing the sale or direct transfer of the attached property enforces a specific lien, such as a mortgage. Real estate liens, if it's a real estate tax lien, they're enforced through tax foreclosure sales or tax sales, which we have a chapter just for this. Now, there's three types of foreclosure process to enforce the liens. You have judicial, non-judicial, or strict. Judicial means court. So we're going to go through court. Non-judicial, so judicial is court and then auction. Non-judicial is just auction. And then strict, no court, no auction. It's just directly to the bank. All right? You're all right, Leslie? You just threw me against the desk over there. You good? All right. I'm here reading and I got hurt for a second. She just dropped the laptop or whatever. I felt it. All right. Here you go. Very easy. Foreclosure process. So here's the thing. There are certain states, guys, there are certain states where we have judicial process. Like New Jersey. New Jersey is a judicial state. That means we have mortgages, which we'll talk about in a different chapter, right? And there's non-judicial states. Like Virginia, for instance, is a non-judicial state. What do they do there? They bypass court. And instead of mortgage, they have a deed of trust, right? So they use a different document. Again, we'll talk about it in a different chapter. These are the two that I want you to remember. Judicial and non-judicial. We'll skip strict for now. But what happens is you stop paying. That's called default, okay? So stop paying, right? This is the default. Acceleration means they're now demanding the full balance. Full balance, okay? Between default and acceleration, usually we have anywhere between 60 to 90 days. So what's happening here? If you never, were you ever behind on the bill? Anybody raise your hand? Ever behind on the bill? Totally fine, right? We've all been kind of behind on the bill. What do? They send you a letter that says, hey, here's the new bill. By the way, do you remember you still have to pay the past bill? Right? So they just give you a notice. New bill plus, hey, don't forget the last bill. Another 30 days go by, what do? Another notice. Hey, you owe this month plus the previous 2 months. Right? Between 60 to 90 days of these notices, right? From the moment you stop paying, between 60 to 90 days, that's what they do. And then at the end of those 60 to 90 days, they go like, okay, the joke is over, pay me. That's what it is. I allow you, I told you, hey, it's the current bill plus the previous one, the current bill plus the 2 previous ones. Now it's time to move forward. We want the full balance, not the past due, the full balance. That's what acceleration is called. I want the full balance. And that goes into a foreclosure lawsuit if you're in a judicial state, or straight to notice of auction. Okay? The foreclosure lawsuit could last, depending on the state, anywhere between 1 to 3 years. Non-judicial states, anywhere between 60 to 90 days. All right. Madiana, I'll answer your question in a second. Let me just finish this and I'll answer your question. So during that period of time, you have a chance to redeem your property. But you know what? They have to give you a final notice. And that final notice might come with an extra couple of days. It might say, let's say, for instance, in another 30 to 60 days, there's going to be a sale, so the auction. This final notice is, hey, I know you lost, but you have until the auction day to pay us back the monies. Some states allow an additional 10 days. Some states allow an additional 1 year. It's different in every state. Here in New Jersey, it's 10 days after the auction, you can still redeem your property. But once the sale happens, usually you lost. All right? And then comes the deficiency, personal suit for the difference. What is deficiency? For the difference that they recovered and what you owe. So the whole process that we just went over is this. State of New Jersey going to go 3 years right now, 3 years at least, between default and foreclosure, like losing your property, between default and auction. Other states, like Virginia, for instance, you could lose your property in as quick as 120 days. Right? So you're looking at 4 months, you could lose your property, go straight to auction. They bypass court. So a judicial state, we go through court. A non-judicial state, we bypass court, we go straight to auction. All right? Any questions? While you guys think of the question, Madian just asked me, are foreclosed homes the same as what people call HUD homes? And are they sold as is? So HUD homes is a type of foreclosed homes, like it's over, it's after the auction. So if nobody bid enough, it either goes back to the lender, or in this case, if HUD was the sponsor of the loan, HUD homes become HUD or Housing and Urban Development owned homes, right? So you can bid on those or purchase those properties after the sheriff's sale. Until the sheriff's sale, they're not HUD homes, they're not REOs, they're not owned by the bank, they're owned by the homeowner that's losing the house, right? The question is, are they sold as is? All properties are sold as is, something that people don't understand. All properties are sold as is. It's just that some people say, hey, I'm willing to work with you, and other people say, I'm not willing to work with you. As is simply means you are fully aware of all the defects of the property and you still choose to move forward. That's what as is means. All right? So you know that the house is about to collapse. I'm selling it as is, but at least you know. If it's something you don't know, you can still sue me because I did not tell you that the house you just bought was about to collapse. Okay? Any questions on this? Foreclosure? Okay, I covered all of it, except this last one on page 70. Where it says, in lieu, instead. In lieu means instead. So it's an exchange. You're telling the bank, or the bank's telling you, hey, let's not do foreclosure. It's expensive for us, the lender. It destroys your credit for you, the borrower. Let's make it a friendly agreement where you give me the deed. I'm the lender, right? I'm Bank of America. You give me the deed to the house and I'll let you go. I won't foreclose on you. Okay? So deed in lieu of foreclosure is avoiding foreclosure. Deed in lieu or deed instead is pretty much avoiding foreclosure. It's the process to avoid foreclosure. You guys good? Any questions? No? Stevie? Questions, Liliani? Zoomers, any questions? And YouTubers? No questions? All right. So if there's no questions, guys, we're going to end the session right now. And I'll see you tonight at 5:30 if you're joining the evening class. Or I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock for this class. Michael just wrote, I'm in Georgia. I wish I could take your class. You are taking it right now. We are expanding to other states throughout this next year. So throughout 2021, we're going to be in 14 states. So who knows? Maybe I'll be teaching in Georgia. All right, guys. Make sure, whoever's watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe and hit the alert button. There's a bell button there. Once you subscribe, you'll be alerted for every time that I go live, right? So it's really cool. And it also helps me reach more people. So the more subscribers I have, the more people I can reach. Alex, yes, we're going to be in Texas as well. Yep, that's one of them. All right, guys. I'll see you tomorrow at 10 o'clock or this evening at 5:30. Have a blessed day.